Welcome to another Cornish Surf Campers video. I hate rockwool. Oh. Now that lot's out, I can give you a bit of a backstory on this van. So this is a van that a customer has started to convert. They've done some insulation, as you can see, and started to board it out, and then realised that they don't want to do this themselves, so they've brought it to me. I'm going to try and reuse insulation where possible, but I do hate that rockwool. The first job I've got to do in this van, because starting from the outside in, is to put a skylight in, small solar panel, and a Fiamma awning down the side. So let's get on with that. So as you can see, this van is a little bit rarer than most because it's the short wheelbase, high roofed Vivaro, same as the Traffic, etc, etc, X82 shaped vans. That means that the roof ribs and patterns are a little bit different, which makes fitting the skylight a little bit more tricky because there are wider spaces between the ribs. Come on up and I'll show you. As you can see, I've removed the air vent that was here, and there was also a flashing beacon that was at the back. So we've got to fit the fan, the roof light fan, back here because obviously we've already got holes there, so they're going to need to be cut out anyway. So this is the base frame for the Maxxfan 400. Maxxfan 500 sounds better, sounds more futuristic, but Maxxfan 400 will have to do. That's got to go here, and as you can see, big gaps, high ridges, means that that gap there, we're going to have to build it up with something to obviously stop water from getting in. And I don't want to just fill it with silicone sealant or mastic because that's going to crack and leak. So that's got to go there, but also we've got this little solar panel, just a little 60-watt solar panel to trickle charge the leisure battery. There's not a high power demand going into this van. It's literally just lights, USB charging points, and they may have the occasional plug-in fridge, but not very often. So there's a lithium ion Fogstar Drift 105 going into this, as well as the Victron battery to battery charger, and also a smart solar charger to run this. So it's not got a high demand. This will keep it nicely just topped up. So we've got to put this so that it fits neatly on these ribs. Now, underneath here, we are going off that point there. I was going to say it's 35, that's not right, 400, there we go. So 400 mil, 40 centimetres. This is what sits down, should sit nice and flat on the roof. It can't sit flat on the roof. So 400 is pretty much bang in the middle of these ridges. Okay, like that. We've got a hole there we want to cover, so that'll be covered with however I build this up. That will sit just there. There is an overhang at the back of these Maxxfans, which comes out to about here, so we don't want it going out past the back doors. So as far forward as we can, while still covering up these holes and leaving room for this. So, before I fit that mounting plate on the roof, I've obviously got to fill the gaps between the two ridges. So here's the panel I took out. I've got to fill that gap there. So what to fill it with? Well, went to the local builders merchants, and something to do with soffits and fascias. Got this. This is 15mm by 13mm, and as it happens, that height, 13mm. Maybe it's 14, but by the time we've got some adhesive on there, that will fill that up. So I'm going to cut this into strips to fit in here, and I'm going to have to double it up. So I want to really achieve 30mm width. So this is 15mm, doubling it up, 2 strips, bond them onto the van, then I'll have a nice flat surface to be able to mount that panel, and any imperfections will be taken out with the adhesive sealant. That's pretty close. That is pretty close. But the curvature at the bottom of the dip just means that these have got to be sanded down a bit. But that will fit quite nicely once that's happened. So I'll make a whole block of these, and they will go on the van just to take out that gap and to be a nice smooth surface to mount onto. Okay, that's those fitted. I'm going to leave those overnight while the Sikaflex sets, so that I've got a good solid base to put the mounting plate on. When the mounting plate's fitted, I'm going to use white Sikaflex because it's a white unit, and I'm going to build some up around here so you don't get water sitting right up close to this. So when it's all on, you'll just see white Sikaflex along here, and you won't actually see these. So I'll leave those to set overnight, which is a good job because the alarm's just gone off, so it's time for the school run. Okay, time passes. It's actually been a day and a half since I did this because I completely forgot that the next day I was out on a school trip. So let's see how these have stuck down beautifully. That's given us a nice flat space to mount this. Let's give it a little trial fit, see how it looks. That looks good. There's a slight curvature in the roof, but that will pull down with these screws. Okay, there, that does fit very nicely. So the screw marks on here, I'm going to bring slightly more in line with this ridge, pre-drill the screw holes, and then get it fixed down. I'm doing all of this up here, I have my trusty assistant working on the small Fiat Doblo, which has just come in for a microvan conversion, but more on that later. Only me! Now this piece is fixed down and sitting quite nicely on those bearers that we put in. That's obviously sealed around its base, but I now want to put more sealant in where I've added those bearers to stop any water from seeping in underneath, and I'm going to load it up a bit here because I don't want it to have water when the van's sat at an angle and it's been raining, water sitting right up at the joint. So I'm going to put quite a bit of sealant in here to help keep it away from that joint. Now that's all done, that's going to take a little while to set because it's quite thick, but it's fine because we're indoors anyway. I can now put the top on. Exactly where this is going, I can fit the solar panel and know that I'm not going to do it anywhere that's going to get in the way. Now that the panel is on and the bonding is setting off, I need to be able to get these cables inside the van. And that's where this comes in useful. So I'll put a hole in the van, obviously smaller than that space, and then bond and screw this onto the roof for the cables to be able to go in. Now that's secured into place, I can feed the cables through. Just make sure that's slackened off a bit. These have got MC4 connections on the end, but we're not going to need those, so I'll just cut it off as close to the end as I can. Put a slight kink on it, and that will help guide it down through and into the hole that we've cut. Yeah, that's it. Make it as short as possible without too many sharp kinks. Tighten that one up without getting too much gunk on my fingers. Same with the other one. Oh, that one is getting stuck. No, there she goes. There's so many different types of flat panel you can get now. I quite often like to use the ones which have got this junction box underneath, but it's round. So all you've got to do is put a hole in the roof and then put the panel over that hole, and the cable goes down through and straight in. In fact, I think you've probably seen me do one of those on the pop top on the White's Transporter. Bit more gums on my fingers. Done. And with that done there, we see the cables inside waiting to be extended. So now the work on the roof is done, time to put on the Fiamma awning. Because this van's a bit unusual because it is the high roof short wheelbase, there aren't any particular awnings and brackets listed for it. So I bought this bracket, which is for a Mercedes Sprinter and the Transit extra high roof. And you'll see if you look, the top sticks out further than it does at the bottom, and that is to account for the lean back in the roof. So the roof goes inwards as it goes higher. Obviously you want your awning to be nice and level, so these make up for that. Now I've measured this awning and I know that I've got 10 centimetres from the very back of the case to where I need to have support. And I want the very back of the case to be right here. So I'm going to measure 10 centimetres forward, which more or less, for the purposes of this, puts it there, which is ideal. So I'm going to fit the first bracket on the back and then measure forward and do the other bracket. These brackets onto the van, the kit has just come with screws and the instructions just show some sort of load bearer behind, but there's no load bearer included in the kit. So what is that, a piece of wood? I'm not sure. If I get some blocks of plywood and put them behind and screw into that, that would work, but I'm not sure I like the idea of it just being screwed into plywood. It'll be bonded on as well, but thankfully in every Fiamma kit they send you a fixings kit generally, unless you buy the one without the fixings kit. And I've got a lot of parts left over, so I've got this stainless steel coach bolt, which I've realised if I go put it through and then hammer it in, the coach bolt will sit nicely and make a square hole so that I'll be able to bolt them up. And I've got some Fiamma load spreading washer plates which will go behind like that. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I should probably have explained a little bit better in that last segment about coach bolts. Coach bolts have a squared section behind the head of the bolt. They're a dome with a square section on. They're designed to hold themselves in place. A lot of applications are when you're trying to tighten them up into wood. This is a standard Fiamma bracket. You can see it's got the square holes in, so that this bolt sits through there and it holds itself tight and won't turn around. The reason I'm hammering them into these brackets is because the holes are just round. They're countersunk for the screws that they've included in the kit, the screws that I don't want to use. So if I hammer the head of the coach bolt into there, it just because this is aluminium, so it's quite soft, quite a soft metal. it makes a square indentation so that it holds itself in while I'm tightening it up from the inside of the van. Okay, it's the next day. So after I'd fitted that bracket internally, as you saw last, I needed to charge up my phone to record, and I continued working and completely forgot about it. So I measured the distance that I needed the front bracket to be, this one, fitted it up and fitted the awning. So as you can now see, the awning is done. So that is all I'm going to be doing on this van in this video for now. If you're finding it useful, if you're finding it helpful, that's great. That's the idea. Please do think about liking, subscribing and sharing. Put in the comments, how would you have fitted these brackets? Would you have used the block of wood behind and a screw, or would you have done it the way I did it? There's no right or wrong answer really. Just interesting to see what you think. So I'll see you in the next video, which will either be working further on this van or on the little Fiat Doblo you saw earlier.